with Oakland Community College, Central Michigan University, and Michigan Colleges Online. Julia Rodriguez is a librarian at Oakland University and was a Spark Fellow in 2019. Tina Mullins is the OER librarian at Saginaw Valley State University. And Christina Radishowskis is the Public Services and Outreach librarian at Aquinas College. Finding OER resources and other textbooks and other materials to replace commercial textbooks can be a very challenging task. So today we want to review 8 of the largest OER repositories, tell you about their focus, some of their strengths and weaknesses, and give you a chance to search them and share your experiences. Our hope is that you will gain knowledge and confidence that will help you to be active promoters of OER to your faculty. We're going to evaluate 4 sites and then invite you to do a brief activity. Please open the shared Google Doc that's in a new tab, and the link to the document should be in the chat. And this will give you, this is where we're going to be collecting your comments. And then we'll evaluate 4 more sites, and we'll give you a search challenge that you can take home as homework since we're a little short on time here. And we are also going to skip our Mentimeter here, and we'll dive right in.
All right. So the Open Textbook Library is a repository of openly licensed textbooks compiled by the Open Education Network. It was developed and supported by the University of Minnesota, and all textbooks have a Creative Commons or GNU license. The exception is that they do not have books that are have a non-derivative license. Those were excluded beginning in 2016. So there still are a few older ones in there, but there are no new ones with a non-derivative license. So textbooks are reviewed by members of the Open Education Network, and some colleges and universities offer faculty incentives to review books in the Open Textbook Library. So there are peer reviewers through the Open Textbook Library. One of the things that I particularly find useful about this repository is that they are high quality textbooks that are curated with clear criteria. So in addition to being openly licensed, they must be original texts, not derivatives, unless substantial changes have been made. And they all have to be at use at multiple institutions of higher education or affiliated with a higher education institution, scholarly society, or professional organization. And they all need to be in a portable file, such as a PDF or an EPUB. I like that on their homepage, they list new books and they list books in development. That's one of the few places where you can find books that are in development. They also provide MARC records for their books. The drawbacks of the Open Textbook Library, it's got only a very basic search function. There's no filters, no advanced search, and it doesn't contain supplemental material. But I do like, it is just textbooks, which can be helpful because if you don't want anything else but textbooks. If you go to the next slide, just a sample book record, and it just shows you the rating system reviews are below the title, shows you what formats are available. A lot of them have multiple formats, and the license for use. So next I'm going to talk about the Pressbook directory. So Pressbook is a publishing platform for many openly licensed books. In fact, many of the books in the Open Textbook Library use Pressbooks. And so this is a directory of all publicly available books using Pressbooks. So it's not all, it's not just textbooks, and not all books are openly licensed. So pro and con of, you know, not having things that are textbooks, that can be really useful to find books that are not textbooks, but if you're, you know, specifically looking for textbooks, that can be a challenge. What I like most about Pressbook directory, if we go to the next slide, there are multiple filters. So you can filter by license, publisher, network, and I like the books based on another book. So, and if you see here on the right side of the screen, a filter by license, it allows you to include or exclude criteria, which I find really useful. And it's, if you look at the example of the introduction to psychology, it also shows whether a book is an adaptation or not. It shows you the citation information. So that little grid with the black box and the little open boxes below show that it's an original content. The downsides to Pressbook directories, there's no criteria for inclusion. So anybody who's made a book public with more than 1,500 words is included. There's definitely, definitely find books in there that are unfinished. I saw one today that had definitely had less than 1,500 words. It just was like a demo. So that's one downside. And, you know, it does contain many all rights reserved books. So if you're, that can be a little frustrating. But even those books are freely available online. And it's, you know, it's nice. I like going beyond just the basic OER textbooks by, you know, you can find more in-depth books in the Pressbook directory. So I will pass it off to Christina.
Okay, hello, I'm Christina. I'm going to talk about two more textbook repositories. One is OpenStax and the other is LibreText. So here's OpenStax. And this is a small collection of textbooks. There are 42 in all, I believe, as of like yesterday. And they are peer-reviewed, and they focus on introductory level and high school AP level content. Let's go to the next slide and take a look at some features. So this is a busy, complicated page, but I'll just take you square by square. So the way that you get into the content in OpenStax, into the textbooks, is by selecting first a subject. And so in this first square here in the top left, you'll see the subjects that are choosable. So there's no search function on that home page. I've included just an image of some of the books because you've probably, well, maybe you've seen some of these around because these can be printed and purchased through Amazon or college bookstores. Moving to the right, I've included a little snapshot of a summary of a particular book. This is, I think, an American history or American government, but it doesn't matter what it is. And so there's a short summary in the bottom right section of that square rectangle. But the thing that I think is very helpful in OpenStax is that there are instructor resources and some student resources. And the student resources are mostly like how to study and stuff, but sometimes they could be like question bank answers or something like that. The instructor resources I'll talk more about in a moment. When you open a title, then you get a table of contents, but you also get options to view online or print or download. And if I had made this a bigger picture, you would have an opportunity to purchase the book as well. And then there are some other options for getting the information too. Moving down to the left, I can see that this is hard to see, but this is a box that contains the instructor resources, and a few of note are there are cartridges to plug into learning management systems. So Canvas and Blackboard are named there. And then there are also question banks, PowerPoint slides, and that kind of stuff, language for a syllabus, that kind of stuff that often will come with a traditional textbook package. So I can see that these tools could make using an OER like this enticing and maybe not so scary to make the change to an OER. And then moving to the right, I've opened the US history textbook and wanted to point out that this is where a search box does come up. And so my arrow's not quite pointing to it anymore, but so there's a search box there, and searching only functions within that particular title. So that's probably helpful for some purposes, but as far as looking for content to include in a class, maybe I'm not sure how helpful that is. Students are able to highlight, well, so are faculty, inside the text of the textbooks, and there is an annotation software built into the highlighting system, and there are different colors, so students who might want to organize what they highlight, there are different colors available. And at the bottom of that, that box, there is another option to purchase this title. And then everything in OpenStax, unless otherwise noted, has this license that I've included in the bottom of the slide, the CC BY. That's all I'll say about OpenStax. And then next is LibreText, and this is a bigger tool, and I think it has the LibreText team. They consider this a project, and they are working on it with some funding from the Department of Education. So right now they have about 400 texts in several different topics. It started out in the science and STEM fields, but now it's kind of broadened to a lot of other fields. Let's see, why don't we, there is no search. This is the homepage that I've included in the screen here. And there is no search box, just like in open text. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So I just wanted to point out some things. Again, there's no search box, so you search by subject again, and these are called libraries. And so moving down to the left, I've opened the social science library, and you'll see that there are campus bookshelves, which are collections of either adopted or adapted content for particular institutions. Bookshelves where all the content is either created by OpenStax LibreText, or harvested from other sites like OpenStax. And then learning objects like videos and that kind of thing. There's a remixer tool at the top of that page that's featured on every single page in LibreText, and they are really encouraging of making your own textbooks. Moving to the right very quickly, there's a highlighting tool with annotation software built in. It's called Hypothesis, maybe you've heard of it. At the top, there's a readability option, so students who might have vision issues or are looking at a different size screen, there are ways to manipulate the size of the text, the contrast, that kind of thing. And then there's licensing at the bottom of every single page. So I've circled that to point it out. So got through that real quick, and now we have our first exercise. So on this slide, we have included an actual request from a faculty to a librarian who wanted help finding an OER for her course. It's an introductory business class, and she would like to use it for both a regular and accelerated class. So she'd like to be able to manipulate the inclusion of chapters or content in whatever ways make it better for her to work within an accelerated environment as well. So we're asking you to open that Word document. I see it's just been linked again. Or it's not a Word document, it's a Google document. And we've included links to the 4 things that we've sped through. We are hoping that you could take a few minutes and see, I don't know, just get your feet wet in there and start seeing how it goes for you, but we have limited.
And Christina, this is Suzanne. I just wanted to jump in and said we got a message from Heather saying they're extending this session. So it will be going until 4:15.
Oh, wonderful.
So I just put that in the chat, but so we have more time. I'm glad I checked my email, but to let you know that.
Okay, we do have one team member who needs to leave probably earlier than that, so.
I guess I will just stay since that last section is mine. So I will work it out.
Okay, I have started a 3-minute timer. So go ahead and do some searching, and we'll see what happens here.
And I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with the licensing permissions. So that manipulation of text might, be something that you'll need to look at licensing for if you were actually doing this. So just keep that in mind.
And feel free to put any questions you have in chat.
Oh, since I didn't mention this, the LibreText does allow for the purchase of print copies as well. They have a third-party person they work with. I just realized I omitted that.
I like the comment about getting lost in LibreText. So that happens to me all the time.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
It's not a surprising comment since I often struggle with LibreText.
Yes, I'm the least familiar with OER repositories, and when I went in there to prepare for this, I was overwhelmed for a minute, and then I came to love it after a while. Love is a strong word maybe, but one downfall of the LibreText is a lot of times if you click on something, there's nothing there. So it looks like they are more robust than they are, and that is disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
My timer went up. Tina, are you?
Yep. My timer went off too. So we will have to continue. And
thank you for participating, everyone. I know that was a quick
okay, I'm going to talk about OER Commons, and most of you are probably familiar with this. It was started in 2007, so it's been around for a while. And ISKME is the nonprofit that started it with a grant from Hewlett. It has standardized metadata with descriptors like title and material license and that kind of thing. And so individual educators submit their work, and then they're reviewed for quality and alignment to standards. In 2012, they added open author, which allows you to create your materials and remix materials that are hosted on the site. They have a system to evaluate content and align it to quality rubrics and standards. And that it's included in it is an embedded Common Core state standards alignment tool, which makes it especially attractive for K-12. So the strengths, the metadata, which is required, and it makes the searching robust because there's a standardized vocabulary. The size and scope is definitely a strength because it's large and it covers anywhere from K-12 through graduate school, career tech, adult ed. The authoring tool is a strength, I think, and also a weakness sometimes too. It also contains custom curated resource collections or microsites and hubs. So you can see here that the Michigan Colleges Online has an area especially for community colleges. So each of the 28 community colleges has a space where they can link to their OERs that are being used in their among their faculty. Weaknesses, like I said, I have not found open author particularly easy to use, although I have to admit that I haven't worked with it a lot. And I think they probably have made some improvements since I've worked with it. So don't give up on it if you need an authoring tool. They don't offer hosting. So unless you create something in open author, you have to, and you want to add it to OER Commons, you have to link out to some other storage. And I found that the standardized review tool is really slanted toward K-12 and Common Core, and it's not as relevant to higher ed. And now I'm going to talk about Skills Commons, and this is one that has always been a puzzle to me. So that's kind of why I was interested in doing some more work on it. It's a workforce development digital library, and it grew out of the Department of Labor grant program for community colleges that started in 2010. And they gave $2 billion in grants to 700 community and technical colleges. And the last cycle ended in 2018. The materials were developed in partnership with local industries and are reviewed by subject matter experts. And after the grant ended, responsibility for the repository was assumed by California State University, Long Beach, and Merlot. So the site is still maintained and supported, and it continues to grow. The strengths of Skills Commons, it's one of 2 repositories that have a reliable collection of career tech teaching materials, the other one being BC Campus. And all of the submissions have to be reviewed by subject matter experts and industry practitioners, people who are actually working in the industry. And those reviews and evaluations are posted with the material on the site. They have standardized submission requirements. Many of them have complete courses that you can import into your LMS. And all content must be licensed CC BY, so they're very flexible. Weaknesses, the simple search function does not reach down into the content. So you have to search kind of from the top down by industry or NACE code. But you see they have this really cool wheel where you can hover over and you see what what percentage, what ratio of materials are in that field. Another weakness is that many of the materials that you find here are not actually text materials. They're syllabi, course outlines, course objectives, the grant materials, that they had to keep track of the grant. So that can be frustrating sometimes. Some of the courses use assigned textbooks that are not OER. So you have to keep your eye open for that. But the biggest obstacle, I think, with Skills Commons is that is format issues, that there are file extensions unknown to man that some of the materials have. So for example, this one has .psd. Well, I don't know what a .psd is, but you can always Google it and find out what program will open it. You can always ask for help from your ed tech people who will probably recognize these extensions. They have good FAQs that help people to use and open the files. I found an extension that was really strange, and looked in the FAQs, and they said, well, just change the extension, download it, change the extension to .zip, and then you can open it. Who knew? So, and a lot of the files are zipped. So you can often not really look at the materials without downloading them and unzipping them. And then you do that, and then it's might not be what you want. So that's challenging too. And lastly, the last of the 4-year grants was awarded in 2014, and they were so there is, the material is aging. So be sure to check the date on the material if it's in a discipline that is likely to have changed significantly. Julia.
Alrighty. So I'm going to follow up with the last two repositories. These are more like federated search. So the first one I'm going to talk about is OASIS, which actually stands for Openly Available Sources Integrated Search. Yeah, I can see why they have an acronym for that. It's a federated search tool that was developed by the SUNY Milan Library in New York. And it searches across 117 different sources of open content with, they claim, over like 300,000 records. They also accept recommendations for additional sources that could be added. It contains a variety of CC and Creative Commons and public domain content. And it has a really large catalog of textbooks and homework and teaching materials and simulations. This is actually one of my more go-to favorite sources because it is really clear and easy to use. It has a super clean interface and multiple filters. If you could go to the next slide, Tina, we can kind of look at some of that. And it has a really nice way to limit on the side with the filters based off of subject or the type of material that you're looking at. And the results list is pretty clear as to what kind of license they have, where the content's coming from. And then they also have some bonus little icons there where you can share the actual record. So if you're putting together a list for faculty, that's really nice. And then when you get into the record detail, which is down there on the left, it very clearly marks the license that's on it. It shows whether it's been reviewed, and it gives you a nice description. So I really like searching in OASIS because I often find very good content quite easily. I would say the one con is that there aren't a lot of items that are reviewed. So you can see that I picked one that showed that, but there's not as many reviewed items as I'd like to see. So if you can go to the next slide. The next one I'm going to talk about is Merlot. And this is probably one, if you've heard of any repository at all, you've probably heard of Merlot because it's been around the longest. It's started in 1997, developed by the California State University Center for Distributive Learning. And then the following year, they took the project to be a collaborative project with the University of Georgia System, Oklahoma State Regents of Higher Ed, North Carolina System, and the California State University System. So they all joined together as a consortium representing over 100 campuses. So because of that, Merlot is one of the largest repositories out there. It's also pretty well curated with both peer review and a rating system, which is really nice. A lot of the resources that we look at don't have both of those components there. So there's about 10,000 different things in the collection. You can look at discipline-specific learning materials. You can look at exercises. You can see whether it's CC licensed textbooks, the homework, teaching. There's also a content builder website. A part of this is a website. If you could go to the next slide, we can kind of just take a peek in there. So Merlot does allow you to log in and create an account. And when you do that, you can have your own bookmark sort of things that you like, but you can also use the content builder as well and creating pages in there. The one thing that I really like about Merlot is that it has a lot of different kinds of content, and it has a really nice way to filter down. So you can see on the left where I highlighted the different types of disciplines, but then you can also filter by material type. So if you want to get really specific, sometimes I've used this to look for case studies when faculty have asked. So they do have a really nice way to filter. They also have a way to search beyond the collection, which I found not as helpful because it's already such a big collection that I didn't necessarily want to find more. One of the drawbacks of the system is that there's frequently multiple records for the same resource, and that not all of the resources you're going to find in Merlot are free. So that can be a little frustrating. One of the cool things that I did find about the system, I said, is the content builder, and that, you know, when you have created your own OER content, anybody can submit that content into Merlot. So at this point, we're going to move on to our second case study. I think we have time now that we've had extra time granted to us. And so we're going to follow the same process that we did before, where we're using that Google Doc and going over this case study with the 4 repositories that both Tina and I have introduced for you. And let's just make sure, I have too many things in the way, that we get the link in the chat again if people need that. And we can look at our case study. The case study we have for this one is a culinary instructor wants to find a module for teaching basic measurements, unit conversions, and ratios for adapting recipes. So we'll give you all 3 minutes again to kind of jump into those different repositories that we had just introduced, and then we will wrap it up.
Just a note, you probably just saw that happen on your screen, but we have a section on that document further down to do the case study number 2.
Thanks, Christina.
Thank you. My whole screen just went white, and I was like so freaking out what was going on. I couldn't finish what I was saying. So thank you for adding that. It's back to normal now. Any more technology issues today, and we're going to be.
No kidding.
I have to admit that really digging into Skills Commons, I found a lot more there than I thought was there, and I'm kind of suspecting that they got some of that big grant money that all went to California a couple of years ago, because it seems like they've done some significant upgrading of the system. And I don't know, it's just, for a while there, for several years, I would look at it and I never found anything, but now I have been having better luck. So I don't want to scare you off from Skills Commons, because it really is unique, and it has things that you won't find anywhere else.
There is a workforce section in LibreText as well. I haven't investigated it too thoroughly, but there are things like, I don't know, construction, certification, and that kind of stuff there too.
Cool. I didn't know that.
I like how your rooster added in there as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't even hear it anymore.
I was hoping to hear it today. Made everything better. I love seeing all this activity in this document.
One thing that you could do is, I mean, you could easily adapt something from like a basic math course to a culinary course. You could certainly take maybe even an elementary school measurements exercise and stuff and adapt it. Okay, that's 3 minutes.
Oh. That went quickly.
It did.
Right. So thank you everybody for participating and adding into the document. It's always, you know, the fear when you put these together that no one's gonna do any of that work. It's great to see. Now that you've taken notes on all of the things that we've said, we're showing you a tool that maybe we should have mentioned at the beginning, but we developed this really nicely colorful and very elaborate spreadsheet that we will share. You can see the tiny URL there, but we'll share it in the chat as well, of the different repositories that we featured today. And I will definitely point out that there are a lot more OER repositories out there. We just picked these 8 to focus on. But we couldn't do everything today. And what we've tried to do is give you the basic information about the type of material that's there, kind of the pros and cons and things that we liked about it. And this is something that you can use and take with you as a kind of a wrap up for all of the information that we've given you today. So I think we did pretty good on time.
We did. Are there questions?
Yeah, we can open it up to questions.
Actually, I'm going to stop sharing.
There was one question in the chat earlier about whether OpenStax are included in LibreText.
Yeah, I saw that question, and I don't know if all OpenStax content is in LibreText, so I thought maybe someone else could answer.
It is.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know every subject I looked at, the OpenStax book was there, but I didn't look at everything.
I'd say there's a lot of overlap in these repositories. I know I think all the OpenStax books are available through the open textbook library as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a question about copyright. I'm just gonna share this.
Oh, about the licensing?
Slide share, because it's kind of a simple way to look at all the different CC licenses, which I find it's really helpful to understand them when you are looking for material, whether it can be modified or not, and what's allowed.
Any other questions or comments about your experience with these 8 sources?
And this is only 8. There are billions, well, but not billions, but
there's a lot.
More than 8.
I was wondering if you have an opinion about the Mason OER Meta Finder. Has the acronym MOM. What do you think of that? I've seen that before, and I don't have a lot of experience.
I think we all have an opinion.
Yeah.
Not good.
We
it
almost,
was on our list.
we almost included it, but yeah, it searches so much, and it searches so many public domain sites where there's, like Gutenberg or HathiTrust, that it's things that you would never use or very, very rarely use in an OER course. And it's also difficult to, it doesn't pay off in the long run, I don't think.
We all felt when it wasn't our first go-to. These ones that we presented were the ones that we would go
right
first.
And if you have had a different experience with MOM,
inform us.
please let me know, because I'd be thrilled to hear if someone did have a good.
Tina, can you put the link to the slides in the? I don't have it up anymore. I'm sorry. I don't think the slides yet. My window's all closed earlier.
There's a question about, would you say the 8 you selected are the best of what's available? I think, I'd say that they're the ones I would use the most. I don't use Skills Common because at a 4-year, I just haven't come across the need for that one. But I use all the others. And I think it's hard to say what's the best available, because sometimes, I don't know,
Just
like I had a question about mechanical engineering, and it was really like, none of those really, I couldn't find the material in it, in any of those. And I, you know, it just ended up going out to the wider OER group and seeing, you know, what I could find, what people could recommend. So I think it depends on your topic. For more like less for more mainstream topics, I think that they're all really good. I don't want to other people.
Yeah, sometimes the best source is to crowdsource and ask other people through a listserv, or if it's a straightforward, we tried to give an example of things that were a little bit more straightforward, like the text. And again, I don't use Skills Commons either. But there may be some things that could overlap with some of the courses that I work with.
Just engineering stuff, they're difficult to find, and they're not real high quality yet. I've been an engineering librarian, so yeah, we've tried.
There was actually a great one out of the UK, but it's all like outdated. Kathy, did you see my question?
I think there was a question, favorites that you've used with your faculty. It's a little higher up in the chat there. So which ones are your favorites? There she goes.
I guess I'd feel comfortable sending faculty to OER Commons, and certainly to OpenStax. I'd probably send faculty to Skills Commons just because they in those fields, I don't know the terminology. I don't know the fields well enough to spot something that's going to work, whereas they are much more likely to spot something that's going to work in trades. I don't think I'd send anybody to LibreText just because it's confusing, and I think that they would throw up their hands. And Oasis for sure.
I will say about the LibreText, the remixer intimidated me originally, and I wasn't even going to comment on it. I was just going to ignore it, but I looked at it and played with it, and it's actually very satisfying to use and works incredibly well within the LibreText environment. And it seems like it's easy to upload your own content if there isn't content you want to use within the LibreText, LibreVerse as he calls it. So if somebody were interested in creating something, I would send people there.
Yes, they also apparently will help you import as well. So if you have, they have imported the OpenStax collections, but they will help import other things too for people to remix. So
right, they want that badly.
Yeah,
like.
That's good to know.
Yeah, so like when you ask favorites, sometimes it's really the circumstance of what the person's trying to do and what they need. And I have favorites for textbooks for. And I, have, or sometimes I'll curate a little selection and then give them more links. So it just really depends on what the faculty is trying to accomplish.
I like sending faculty to the records in Open Textbook Library, even if they're like OpenStax or, available elsewhere, because of the reviews, faculty reviews. And yeah, so, but
I agree. That's a good point. I do the same thing. I will link them to that rather than the OpenStax because they get more information from that. Any other questions?
Just going to say we have another 15 minutes to discuss, and then there's a half-an-hour break, and then the next session will start at 4:45, just to update on the time. So we got plenty of time here. More questions.
Didn't have to fly.
Yeah.
You mentioned listservs. Do you have specific lists, putting a question to a listserv? Is there one that you would recommend?
The OER listserv, I can pull up the address if I.
There's a Google group, CCC OER is the Google group, and then there's a Spark listserv. I can put the CCC OER link. And yeah, this is just crucial. I use it all the time, and I have been for years.
Yeah, I like the CCC OER group a lot. They're really helpful when you have a tough topic.
Yeah, in fact, for the activities, we scoured the listservs for questions that were asked in those listservs.
And you don't have to be a member of Spark to be part of the listserv, because that has come up, question has come up before. I find it invaluable that when you have those tough things to look for, and I actually have a folder that I search the folder of those questions before I put the question out, because so many people ask for different content in that listserv.
And the CCC OER group, even though it says it's for community colleges, it's definitely
Everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
And you can search the listserv. So like I just did that, I don't know, yesterday, I think. You can search to see if a certain topic had been covered at some point, and people put links in there.
Yeah, they also do a lot of support if you're looking at questions about OER program that you're developing and all of that. It's a very good community to support both of those.
Yeah, or attribution. I just looked at it yesterday for attributing a derivative text, and that's really helpful.
Yes, you're free to share the chart with colleagues. So you know what, I think we forgot to put a license on it.
I'll put one on.
Well, we'll just slap it on there.
We'll put one on, but yes, the idea is for you to have a takeaway and to be able to share.
Kathy says on CCC OER, I see a video, learn about the relationship between copyright and open licensing. I'm going to watch it yet. You know, when I first started searching for material, it's complicated without understanding the licensing. I feel like helps a lot. I did the library certification for Creative Commons licensing, and that helped a lot in terms of understanding all the intricacies of it.
And what is involved in doing that? It's a big commitment, yeah. Doing the certification, it looked amazing, but maybe you could tell us a little.
Yeah, the certification was amazing. I did it a year ago. I'm trying to remember if it was 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And it was a lot of work, you know, assignments each week and a final project. But we, you know, went pretty in depth into, you know, where Creative Commons came from, and intro to copyright. There is, I should find the link.
I'll put it in the chat.
There is the book that they use for the course is freely available, so you can actually do it on your own time if you don't have the time or money to go to take the class.
I didn't realize that. That's nice.
Yeah, and you can look at, you know, resources that people have created through the class, which there's a lot about the CC license, about, you know, just the licensing in general and how to understand it.
Yeah, and I just learned that if your university is part of the Midwest Higher Education Compact, so MHC or something like that, I can't remember that you get a discount on that course.
Oh, wow, nice.
So This is the Midwest Higher Education Compact, but they have an OER group, and I think, Tina, aren't you part of that group too? And so they just let us know that the member universities get a discount on that Creative Commons course.
Great.
Yeah, if you look at certificate resources, it has a link to the syllabus and then Word documents of the full content.
And it's interesting, it looks like they even have it in audio if you prefer to listen to it. So they have an audio version as well.
Yeah, and they're like translating it into different languages. I mean, people from all over the world take the course.
Any other questions? I think we got about 5 minutes here. Sorry, everyone had to rush so much at the beginning, right? Yeah. we didn't know. So and thank you everyone for sticking with us, right? When you were in the waiting room. It was great. We had such a nice big group.
Yeah, I was afraid everyone would disappear. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for hanging around.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And our email address is on the slides. I'll put the slide link in the chat again. And feel free to contact any of us. We're always, that's one of the wonderful things about OER is that everybody is more than willing to help.
Yay, they like the practice.
Oh, good. Yeah.
We were successful and my kids got to miss their piano lessons, so they're very excited.
So, is that what you had to do? Oh gosh.
Yes. You're welcome.
I know. They don't know yet, but they're probably wondering why I haven't called them to go. So